We're here at CES 2025 in the ASUS booth where they have sponsored this video where I'm going to tell you about how they're actually delivering really great value on a lot of laptops, starting with this right here, this Zenbook A14, and it is just so incredibly light. Look at this. It is under a kilogram, 980, and that gets you a 70 watt-hour battery, which they claim is good for 32 hours of video playback. Now, of course, like every single brand, that is an out to lunch will never happen number, but at the same time, you can take off half of that and still have better battery performance than basically everything on the market. Now, how do they manage that? Well, the 70 watt-hour battery like we just said, but also this gets Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. This is actually the first laptop that we've seen with a Snapdragon X, not the X Plus or the X Elite, just the X, which gets you 8 cores, unlike the 10, which is also available with the X Plus. None of that explains, though, how they managed to get this so freaking light. They're able to get it under a kilogram by using a magnesium aluminum alloy, which is the sort of thing that is typically reserved for the most expensive of laptops on the market. The thing is, though, this thing is just $899.99 starting price, and you still get 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD for that. And man, that is a good value, especially when you feel this thing. It is Ceraluminum coated across the entire device. ASUS has heavily invested in this process, and it used to only be the back cover of a laptop and only on the most expensive ones that they had, but now the whole thing is just covered in it, and it feels incredible. This just feels great, and also like, I am show floor sweaty at the moment. Look at this. Look. That would be disgusting on any other laptop, but it's still looking great. Another thing that's really neat about this laptop is that it comes with a 1080p OLED display, but it almost has like a matte finish. A lot of OLED displays are super glossy, so using them in bright environments is kind of tough. But this right here does not have any cover glass, which lowers the weight and also just makes it work incredibly well in these super challenging lighting environments. That said though, if you buy it from Best Buy in the US, it will have cover glass, which increases the weight by a little bit, but does make it feel a touch more premium if that's what you want. But of course, I have seen many a thin and light laptop be ruined by terrible I/O, but fortunately that is not the case here. We have headphone microphone combo, 2 USB-Cs, HDMI 2.1, and on the other side, a USB Type A just to make sure that that still exists in your life. Maybe though you're still looking for a bit more value, and that's where the Vivobook line comes in. This is the Vivobook 14, not to be confused with the S model, which we'll look at later. And as far as I can tell, this is the cheapest Snapdragon X equipped laptop on the market. So you still get that like 20 hours of battery life from a 50 watt-hour battery. If that actually pans out, well, it won't, we know that, but you'll still get great battery life. But of course, the real selling point of this is the price. It is just $699.99, and that gets you 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD, and kind of just everything that you need in a laptop. Once again, we have solid I/O, including HDMI 2.1. They didn't cheap out on that, love to see it. 2 USB Type A's and a Type C. Oh, 2 Type C's. And a very nice bonus at this price point is we also get Windows Hello facial recognition, so you can log in by just being in front of your computer. And one thing I really appreciate is just right here. You can turn off the webcam, just flick the switch over. You don't have to worry about anyone looking at you or it being weird or accidentally still being on a Zoom call many hours later. Is it the prettiest or lightest ever? No, it's just plastic. But that said, I think it is a pretty great value. If you want a little bit more screen though, you can pay an extra $50 and get an extra 2 inches with the Vivobook 16. Very nice. If you want something a little bit more premium though, you have the ASUS Zenbook S14. Comes in at 1.39 kilograms, very nice and light, and that is accomplished by using this aluminum chassis right here. You also have the option of Intel or AMD, and maybe in other markets Qualcomm, depending on where you live. But overall, this is going to be a very enticing laptop, especially at the price that it comes in at. For $1099.99, you get an AMD AI9 HX370, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a 1 terabyte SSD, making this an incredibly appealing config, especially when you pair that with the OLED panel on this, which just looks freaking fantastic. Again, there's nothing super crazy about this laptop. You get solid selection of I/O, very similar to the base model, but it just does its job as a laptop very well. Oh, no touch though. Again, if you want a slightly larger screen, the Vivobook S16 comes in at $1099 also, but that gets you 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD instead of the 32 that you get on the 14. With that said though, maybe you want this laptop, but you want it to look a lot more funner. Well, then you need to be in China. This right here is the ASUS Adol 14 Air, which is the same as the North American S14, but they did a collab with ASUS, which gets you these really fun little graphics here. They're really nice colors, they have a bunch of them. But the most interesting, it's a fragrant laptop. It has a little thing here, so you turn this little dial, it pops out. You turn this, and then inside there's a little fragrance thing. So what they're doing is as your laptop heats up, it heats up this fragrance, and then you get nice smells when you use your laptop. Let ASUS know down below in the comments if you want this sort of fun design of laptops to come to North America. I think it should. I really appreciate laptops that aren't just boring. Maybe though you've got a large or small business and you want something that's a bit more secure and a bit more upgradable. Well, ASUS has told me that these are super upgradable and repairable laptops, so let's put it to the test. We're taking it apart, of course we are. They have a blown up one right there, not good enough. On their professional laptops, they have tried very hard to limit the number of screws that you need to undo. So this one right here is 6, many of them are just 4. Inside of this ExpertBook P3, you can see that we have 2 upgradable RAM slots, upgradable Wi-Fi right here, and an upgradable SSD. Many of these also come with 2 SSD slots, although the one we opened up specifically turns out it doesn't. What also is really cool is you can see all this metal reinforcement over all of the I/O. They say that that greatly increases the number of insertions that it's rated for and just generally ups the durability of this device by quite a bit. And here we also get a lot of really cool stuff like hardware TPM. That can be really good for security. And on their Expert B series laptops, you get dual BIOS. On this right here, you get a self-healing BIOS. So if a cosmic ray just so happens to hit your BIOS chip, you are not out of luck. Here we also get a 63 watt-hour battery, which they say is completely toolless to remove. Apparently this is the #1 thing that businesses will replace on their laptops. So if we come in here, just move those over. Oh, come on. Unlock, unlock. Look at that. 2 things right there, and your battery can be replaced. This can just greatly increase how much you can get out of your laptop, because maybe in 2-3 years, it's not lasting too long. Don't even need to undo any screws to get the battery out. Absolutely love to see it. The Expert series of laptops, you can just configure kind of whatever you want, from pretty cheap to very, very expensive, depending on your needs. You get to decide. You have a business. You get to do whatever you want. Just like how the business side of ASUS decided to sponsor this video. Huge thanks, guys, for watching this. Hit like, get subscribed, and let us know what kind of weird stuff you want them to bring to North America. I really want that scented laptop. It's hilarious. Have a good day.